Welcome to the School of Risk podcast, where we have insightful, valuable, and sometimes intense conversations about the various dynamics of risk-taking in life and business. I am your host, Bellow, and today I bring a good friend on the show who's doing very well in his field, and he's going to talk to us about data. Data is key, data is gold, data is the new crude oil, as they say. Find out what Victor has to share on this podcast. You're going to be blown away about some of the things you learn. And I leave you to jump into this episode now. Welcome you into the territory of the School of Risk podcast. You know what time it is. Let's go. Let's go. Welcome to the School of Risk podcast, Victor. It's my pleasure to have you here on the show. You and I go way back. And I thought, you know what? If I'm going to bring anybody else I go way back with, it's going to be Victor. So please introduce yourself to our listeners. Let them know who you are and what you do, and we'll build the conversation from there.
Hi, Chi. Thank you so much for inviting me on the show. It's a big pleasure. I've been following your podcast since it started. So I'm honored you invited me to join. Who am I? My name is Victor Bellow. I am currently the founder and CEO of webautomation.io, which is a venture-backed software startup. Previously, before I went into entrepreneurship, I spent probably over 10 years as an IT and management consultant, working for most of the big consulting firms like Accenture and Boston Consulting Group before I went independent as an independent contractor, which is where I met Chi.
Amazing. Yes, I remember that time. I don't know if we should mention the clients we met at. They're not paying us, so I don't know if I should give them that glory. But we met. It was a global investment bank where we met, where I was also an independent contractor as well, and we obviously had a really good relationship working together. And since then, we've kept in touch. We've kept in touch, and you've moved on into entrepreneurship. Just like I have. Why did you transition?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Okay.
Because you know what it is. A lot of contractors, make a lot of money, and they are happy with that rate. And obviously, when it comes to you starting up your own business, it's a different ball game entirely. You know that. But you've taken that risk, man, and you've jumped in there.
Thank you. Let me give you some background.
Sure.
It might be able to paint a better picture than giving you a straight answer. So what I've always searched for, and I tell my wife all the time, is freedom. That's my ultimate desire in life, and that's what I strive for.
I love that.
Freedom means so many things to so many different people, but for me, freedom, it's almost being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it and enjoy what I want to do. That's my ultimate goal in life, and that's what I strive to always get. Financial freedom is one of the things that I've always strived to get, because I believe that's one step closer to my ultimate goal of getting that ultimate freedom. So when I decided to go contracting, this is what I was chasing.
Yes.
I was chasing freedom.
Yes.
And I thought this was going to get me freedom.
Yes.
Because being in the corporate world, I was an employee, going on that rat race, climbing the ladder. I experienced all the challenges that you'd experience, the politics, the backstabbing, the kissing your bosses behind, all that kind of stuff. And then when I found out about being an independent contractor, I thought, this is it. I'm going to get my freedom. I'm going to get paid for what I do. I'm not going to be involved in all the politics, and I'm going to earn a good wage. And for the first few years, that worked out really well. I was single then. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have any kids. So literally all the money I got, I took, I think I remember the second year I was contracting, I took 10 holidays in 1 year.
Wow.
And I thought this is it. This is what I wanted. But obviously, as life gets more complicated, insert a wife, insert 3 kids, a mortgage, nursery fees. That money you thought was fantastic wasn't so good. And I was almost becoming a prisoner in this contracting world. So it wasn't so lucrative from that point of view. And then one thing I also realized, some of the guys that I used to work with in the career path, some of them had become managing directors and done incredible things in the career. And I realized I was probably still at the same level. And then add in so many more complications like IR35 and rate cuts. So I eventually realized that this wasn't going to get me to where I want to go.
Yes.
That freedom. So I thought, let me try something different. A longer story, but I cut it short. I decided I think I should try something different. And startups is always something I followed. I invested in a few startups and I've seen them flourish. I follow all the startup news. I'm in the IT industry. I thought surely if so many people I know could do this, I could do it. So that's where the desire was born.
Amazing. That's incredible. And I love the way you took us back in time, and brought us into the future. And this is where you're at now with web automation, which is your business, which is your company. Is that right?
Yes, it is. It is a venture-backed startup. So I've got me and myself with 2 co-founders, and we did bring on investors early on, and we're going to go down the typical startup path, which is we're going to keep on funding the business for growth till we achieve sort of a big milestone, like a big exit or grow the business into a very large business.
Yes, amazing. That's incredible. Doesn't that sound daunting to you?
As I said, I always focus on what am I doing this for? and I'm doing this for freedom. I
think you are investing in your freedom.
Yes. This is I'm probably going to say this a few times here, because I think about it a lot. And I think even if you asked me 10 years ago, I wanted to retire at 40. And people always ask why? Because I always wanted to be in a position where if I was doing something, I want to get up in the morning and love it and do it regardless of the money. And that's true freedom for me because I would do it 110%. So that's probably just the driver that just is going to keep coming up as a theme in this conversation, but
Absolutely.
It always goes back to what I'm trying to get at the end of it. But in terms of daunting, it actually is exciting. What's exciting is with a startup, when you see it grow so fast, it's exciting when you get new customers, new users, people so interested in your business. Even when we got our first customer that wanted to pay, it's just exciting to me that we create something in our bedroom.
Yes.
And people all over the world want to use it. So it actually excites me growing a company into tens and tens of millions of dollars.
That's amazing. And the reason why I said daunting there was obviously this is how a lot of people feel. They have the idea in their head, but they think it's so big, and they pretty much just think themselves out of the idea of taking that idea, which they feel will give them freedom, and they end up not having that freedom because they're in that cycle of life.
I could probably share the truth, because a lot of people have misconceptions about this, and you're in the same boat as well.
Yes.
Is a lot of people think it's more glamorous than it is. When we started, the concept of an MVP, we start off solving really, really small things. And I'm really getting my hands dirty. So I'm really working on a very small niche problem, and I'm doing everything. So I think it's until we decided to do a funding round, when we started hearing people from the outside talk about our number and value our business, is when we realized, hang on, we're actually doing something big. But when you're in it day to day,
you don't see it.
You're not seeing the big picture everyone else can see. You're just worrying about the little things like the customer support or a customer getting angry or trying to build the next product or a bug. So you're really into the little details. So I think if anyone, I think advice regarding your question is just forget about the big picture. Just work on the very, very little things.
Yes.
And then slowly just work on the little things. Those little things will become bigger. And before you know it, you've achieved what you wanted to achieve.
Thank you for sharing that lesson there, because it's a really vital one. And I wish many people can attain the freedom that comes with owning your space, owning yourself. I'll put it in the words of a guest I had on the podcast a few years ago, and how was where entrepreneurship gives me freedom, and it makes me see myself in ways no other person would see me. It's teaching me about who I am. And when she said that, I'm like, wow. And that is really what I have learned from entrepreneurship, because when you said there, that you do everything yourself. Before I started having, a team or people helping me to do this and that, it was me doing everything. It was me in the living room, on my dining table, wherever, doing what I do.
Yeah, people don't realize they just they see the end product, especially when you have some success, and they just forget it's very humbling.
It is.
Sometimes one person even asked me at one point, said, "Victor, what are you doing?" Like, why are you doing this? Like, come on, you're bigger than this. But most people don't want to know. It's you have said it as well, especially at the start. You really have to humble yourself and just do those very, very little things. Just understanding that it all compounds and it would actually lead to something bigger.
Absolutely. Now, how do you balance that with family life?
It's a very difficult one. The very first thing is, I think, at the point where I knew I was going to quit my job and do this full time, I actually had to have a conversation with my wife because I knew what was coming, and I didn't want any awkwardness, and I had to be honest. And we had that conversation, and I explained. I had savings that could last me probably 6 months. So I told her, look, it's going to be rough for the next couple of years, but I promise I believe in what we're doing, and I believe there's going to be a better tomorrow. So the very first thing is I set the expectations for my wife. The kids are too young to understand, but she really, really stepped up and supported me, especially the first 6 months was so rough. They didn't see a lot of me. Now they do, because things are a bit more stable. But she understood, and she really stepped up. She really helped. She really plugged the gaps, especially when I was late at night working or trying to help. But that's really what's helped us, is just the communication.
Yes.
And she's a stakeholder in the business, because she wants me to succeed, because she knows how much effort I've put in. And that's really how I try to balance it, is just communicating up front. Sometimes they know if daddy works a bit late today, daddy owes them some time on Saturday or on Sunday. But at the same time, what also helps as well is when I work full time, I could never do anything during the day. If I wanted to pick up my kids, I didn't have that option. So right now, I have the option. If I really want to stop working, no one can stop me.
Yeah.
It might affect sales or whatever, but I can make that choice. And I know if my daughter needs me to be somewhere important, I could work around that, and I could make myself available.
Absolutely. And these are the aspects of freedom we're talking about here, to be able to be human, to be who we are, and still achieve what we want to achieve. Because, I'm with you on that. In a few hours, I'll be picking up my daughters from school. So if I was working full time for someone, I'll be looking for excuses or whatever. It's not that straightforward. Now, you mentioned that your wife is a stakeholder in the business. I hear a lot of people say, no way, I can't work with my wife, I can't work with my husband, I can't do stuff with them. Let me just do my thing, let him do his thing.
Okay, she's not financially invested. She
Right,
doesn't
okay.
work for the company. Stakeholder means she's the biggest cheerleader.
Okay, so she doesn't work within the company.
No, she doesn't.
Right, okay, just to clear that out. Okay.
I mean, she's asked me a few times, but I've strongly advised her not to get
Why?
As I said, first of all, it's not very glamorous. It's the pay isn't as good as you would expect working in a bigger company.
Yes.
And the pressure was a lot. So especially when I hire anyone, I always tell them up front, and I tell them, look, this is the startup environment. It's going to be challenging. We're going to need you to work weekends. We're going to need you to work sometimes late. So you need to understand if this is the kind of environment you want to be in. And some people will say, this is not for me. Some people love it. And I'm just very clear up front with anyone that wants to get involved.
That is such an important thing to note, because knowing that it's not glamorous, sometimes it depends on what it is you're doing. The early stages are never glamorous. You have to really roll your sleeves up and dig in, as they say, to start to think about earning any rewards in the first instance. So that's important. Thank you for your time so far, Victor, because it's really insightful hearing about how you have come from where you were to establishing webautomation.io. Now, I think our listeners would like to know. I would like to know a bit more. I know some, but I would like to know a little bit more. And I'm sure our listeners would like to do as well is know a little bit more about web automation, what you guys do, what your company does, and what really goes on behind closed doors, so to speak.
So let me tell you a little bit about the company first, and maybe I'll give you some behind the scenes information.
Yes.
So we are the largest marketplace of web scraping tools. What does web scraping mean? Web scraping is just extracting data from the web. And as you know, the web has so much data, which provides so much insights and useful information for businesses.
Yes.
So we do the hard job of extracting data from websites easy. So we've got a tool. It's a SaaS tool, which means it's can be used on any browser. You just log in using our tool, and you will be able to get data in a structured way from any website without having to write any code. I'll give you a couple of examples of some of our clients just to put things into perspective. Now, a few of our clients do price comparisons.
Okay.
So they usually have an e-commerce store. They want to understand what their competitors are selling for, maybe on Amazon or maybe on another Shopify store. So all that information is public. So you can go on your competitor site and you can copy and paste every single price and product. But what our tool does is automatically, you could just extract that data as often as you wanted. So you can monitor how price changes, what products are they selling, what discounts are they applying, etc. Another simple use case is lead generation. So there are a lot of directories out there that have business information. So if you want to create a list, you can automatically extract that data, put it into your into a marketing list, and then you can build a lead generation campaign. These are just two of the popular examples, but there's so many use cases. We have a lot of people scraping social media information, people scraping reviews, trying to understand what people are saying about their brand, and so on and so forth. In terms of what goes on behind the scenes, we've only been running web automation now 18 months.
Okay.
Seems like a lot longer. We have over 10,000 users, typically small businesses. We do have some enterprise clients as well. We do have a small full-time team of 5. And then we work with some contractors. And we're currently in a funding round. We're trying to expand the team to be able to reach the 2022 milestones.
Amazing. Sounds really amazing. Now, I think we're going to go a bit deeper. Now, I'm sure listeners are wondering, okay, scraping data. Now, when you scrape the data, how does the user of that data translate that data for them to be able to use it? Do you categorize the data? Does it come in raw form? You know, how does it? So you go out. So I come to you and say, you know what? I have so and so and so and so competitors. I want to see what they're doing. Get me data. What do I see when I get it?
You see, you'd have different options, but most of our customers prefer to see it as a CSV. So you see rows and columns.
Right.
So if I give you a typical example, if, for example, you're an Amazon seller, you wanted to understand how other people are selling a specific product, and you scraped Amazon, what you get is rows of different Amazon products. You get columns with the price and the description and the color and the image. That's what the data would look like.
Okay.
For yourselves. Or if you were scraping a directory, for example, you could, like Google Maps, for example, you see the business name and maybe the telephone number and the address and the website, etc.
Mm-hmm. Now, just to clear things a little bit up before going any further, I'm sure some listeners will be thinking, are they going to see my data? You know, when data is scraped, what sort of information do you capture? Because some people might be thinking, I bought on that website not too long ago. You know,
okay.
Are you going to see my data? Is anybody? Other people going to see my that kind of thing? You know, and it brings us the question GDPR as well,
yes,
in terms of legislation.
Okay, so let me maybe take a step back and explain the boundaries.
Yes.
So scraping, or other people call it crawling, this is what Google does. So Google goes through every website available on the internet.
Yes.
On the public web. And they scrape every website periodically, depending on how popular your website is. And they extract all the public content. And they make that available on the search engine. Okay. So if you don't want Google to get any information from you, you can do typical things like put a password, a username and password protection.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can put things on the intranet. So you can control what information is available to go on the internet. But what everyone needs to understand, if any information is available on the internet to Google, that information is public, it's for everyone. So you shouldn't worry about private information. Private information would always be stored on a company database, and that's protected. That we don't have any access to that.
Okay.
We only have access to what a Google crawler would have access to.
Right.
So typically, the information that's available is what you want people to see. So most businesses, they want people to reach out to them,
mm-hmm.
but they'll put their websites and their social media handles and a directory.
Yes.
And they're doing it intentionally because they want more people to contact them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't want people to contact you, you shouldn't put your information out in a public source because that's available to everyone.
Everyone, yes.
The crawler.
Yeah. Amazing. So basically what you do is, your web automation, your company is a smaller version of Google.
You could say this. It's a much more smaller version.
Yeah.
And the main difference with Google, what Google are doing in crawling, and us, is when Google crawls a website, what they allow you to be able to get mm-hmm. are links. What we get back for you is structured data in rows and columns. So when you search Google for some information, what you're going to get back is links to articles, links to product pages, but that information is still not very usable in terms of if you want to do some analysis. What we do is that we then structure that data into rows and columns where you can analyze that data better.
I think that makes a lot of sense because I do a lot of research, and sometimes I want information. I go online to search and I get links, but knowing what I'm looking for, I can do a deeper dive search, or and find information that I want, and collect that data. Or where it's not available on the web, I just send an email to a particular company or whatever, and they send me the information I'm looking for based on what they have. But basically, you are making it easier. You can pretty much go wide, and I'm guessing that it's data anywhere on the web, not beyond the UK, globally, and so on.
Yeah, the beauty of the internet is that it's not regional. So it's anyone. If you have a browser, any website you can reach anyone across the world.
You can go anywhere.
So it's any website available on the public web.
Mm-hmm.
That's the scope of what we do.
Yeah. So you mentioned you have about 10,000 users, and that's quite a lot. So what do they typically come to you for?
This actually surprised us as well, because I didn't quite really. I did because I've created many consumer-based websites, but when I wanted to do some B2B, I didn't realize we would get such large volumes. But when I look at it now, we've got people from probably 47 countries. So when you open it up to the whole world, that's when I realized there's a lot of small businesses out there. Mm-hmm. And most of the people are usually very curious. They're not sure exactly what they want to do. But if I could break it down, I'll say most of our customers, probably half of them, are e-commerce companies.
Okay.
So they're usually comparing products prices online. They're looking at reviews, and they're monitoring their brands. Another percentage of people are doing lead generation.
Okay.
So they're trying
marketing companies and things like
marketing companies, growth hackers, etc. Then we also have people that are like the social media, trying to understand what's going on in social media in terms of information that flows around there. And then we have a small percentage of people, we're still going on that. They're looking at alternative data, which is used for investments.
Okay.
So it's still something we're still working on, because they tend to be larger companies and they have a lot of requirements, but they're using all sorts of data to make investment decisions. Sometimes it surprises me. I think we had one company who was scraping weather, scraping opening and closing times, scraping number of cars in the car park. I mean,
are you kidding me?
It was just very random information, but they were actually building a picture of specific companies they were researching and making an investment into, and they were able to translate that data into meaningful insights to make those decisions.
Yeah, and you can, I never knew that people will request for things like car park data. Why would someone need that information?
So when I actually spoke to them and did a deep dive, a simple example could be, if there are a lot of cars parking in your Tesco's, it's a good signal. It means more people are buying, more people are visiting the store. If less people are going through, it means there's less foot traffic. So they want to make sure those numbers that Tesco are publishing, for example, I'm just giving an example, matches up to some of the public information that they could get. But this is just one of 1,000 random use cases I've heard of in this alternative data space.
That is interesting. That is interesting. So I can pretty much, I'm going to start thinking about what I want you to scrape for me and see what comes back, because it's quite fascinating, and Data is big business now. I remember, I think I was watching a documentary. I can't remember which one it is, and it mentioned. Actually, yes, I remember. It was a Netflix documentary, the one that it was a Cambridge Analytica. I think you know about it already. The Cambridge Analytica documentary, and it mentioned that data is big business and it's larger than crude oil. I don't know if that comparison matches, but it just goes to show that without data, most of the largest companies doing what they're doing, Google will not be there. And data is a very important aspect of our lives in everything we do. And even as humans, we process data, we generate data internally through our thoughts, our minds, and so on and so forth. By the way, I've been trying to figure this out. Maybe you can help.
Okay.
How much data would a full-grown adult have produced in their lifetime? Say, by the age of 40. Do you have an idea?
I really wish I wish I did. But let me answer your question in a different way. I think what I've learned over the last 5 years, and I think is important for people, is I was usually a consumer of data as opposed to being a producer of data, especially on the public web.
Yes.
And I think it's very, very important because now I'm very conscious of always making an effort. That's why I'm doing this podcast. This is data.
Yes.
I'm ensuring that any knowledge, insights I have, it's made available for everyone. So for a long time, I consumed a lot of data, but I never gave out any data.
Any data.
So what you're doing now, this interview is going to be on the web. Someone else is going to consume it. Someone's going to learn. Someone's going to make better decisions or impact their lives. So I always make a very important effort to make sure I'm contributing. I share my thoughts online. I share how we're doing as a business. If that could help another person, that's my job done.
Absolutely. And 100% agree with you. And it's the reason why I'm doing everything I'm doing. And just like you, I used to be a consumer of data. I didn't put anything out, but through obviously having learned from some of the data I have consumed, I saw the need to put out my own data, whether it's through the book I've written and the more books I'm going to write, this podcast, my, blogs and, videos. Like you said, all that is data, and it does benefit people. I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn last week and said, and he's from Croatia, he reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, I've listened to your podcast with so-and-so, great values, strong vibe. And my goodness, knowing that makes me feel good. Okay, keep doing more. And the same thing that you're doing, what you're doing as well, it's just, helping put out data that people can use, benefit themselves in one way or another.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think I read a report that probably, I don't quote me on anything, but majority of the data in the world, it's all within enterprise companies and it's all locked away. No one has access to this apart from them. And because they have large volumes of data, which obviously gives them a competitive advantage.
Yes.
But I believe, especially when you talk about Web3 and the future, people just need to share things. It's not such a big deal to share a lot of, especially raw data. And it's amazing what people could create with data.
Yes.
I mean, just going back, I mean, one of the ideas I had when I wanted to do a startup was when I heard about, I'm just going off on a tangent, by the way.
Yes, sure, please go ahead.
I heard about open banking.
Right, yes.
And this basically was the ability for anyone through an API to access bank accounts, people's bank accounts and details.
Yeah, I have used open banking.
Yeah, but if you look at so many companies have come out of that because they're able to process people's data a lot better than the banks. And I see a lot of startups now who are doing very nice things. They produce fancy dashboards with your data from your bank, which the banks weren't doing. So this whole idea of sharing actually allows people to be able to actually create a lot of solutions which people didn't even know existed. So
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I strongly believe in sharing.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. Sharing information is a good thing, because if you're keeping the data, holding that data and not sharing, it's not benefiting you, it's not benefiting somebody else. So what's the point? It becomes an overload.
Yeah, and it's not such a big deal, because if the banks could open up APIs to allow people to read your bank details, I mean, that sounds so sensitive, but it's been done. So your data you're collecting isn't that sensitive, and it's not a big deal to open it up for other people to potentially create solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a guest on the podcast a few weeks, over a month now. He's a medical doctor, and he's also an entrepreneur, and he has a company called Medical Chain, which uses blockchain technology. And one of the problems he's trying to solve is the struggle or the lack of patient data available to patients. Now, if you go to your GP, all you have is what the GP has on the system. If you have been to the hospital in Manchester, he can't see that information. So he's trying to use blockchain to solve that problem. So, and one of the things that he said that, stuck with me was the fact that traditional doctors, doctors who are not buying into technology, would not share that information with you, because having that data of you is control for them. They feel they have to be the ones to tell you what's wrong with you, and not you have that information. And one thing he said is, when patients come to him and say, what, I've been on Google, I've searched that, I've done a search to find out why I'm having this pain here and there. And he says to them, you know what? I'm glad you did that. You actually have a right to do that. It's your health, it's your information. You're the one that's going to go, back home with a headache. So I encourage you to do it, because don't feel bad about it. And that's how we should really view data, information that can be useful to anyone, really. And I think what you're doing is,
I completely understand that sentiment. I mean, for us in the UK, even when I joined a technology consultancy this years ago, I remember they were working on this project to unify all the healthcare data, because it's a massive problem. But ultimately,
was that the MP program?
I don't know. Remember what the name
program for IT a few years ago.
But when I just joined the company, and I think on my induction, they explained the case study and they failed.
Yes.
And they couldn't deliver the project because it was really complex. But the point I was trying to get to, especially with healthcare data, with any other data sets, is opening up healthcare data to everyone. There could be a group of guys who are very good at analyzing data, could create a solution, could understand the data, could do a lot of research that could lead to saving just one life. Could spot patterns, could understand if there are any potential problems that can happen with patients much quicker than a doctor seeing you for 10 minutes.
Yes.
So the impacts could actually be so large. And this is just through data, as you described.
Absolutely. Are there companies out there that frown upon web crawling or data crawling? And try to block what you're doing, or try to stop their data from being solved?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So one of the problems with crawling and generally automation is whenever someone creates a technology, someone's always going to use it for good and someone's going to use it for bad.
Yes.
So sometimes it's very difficult for a website to understand what's a good bot, what's a bad bot. So a bad bot is typically something very malicious, like you have people trying to create thousands of accounts on a website automatedly for not so good things, or some people trying to do a DDoS attack, which is sending a lot of requests to a website to shut it down. So sometimes a webmaster doesn't know what traffic is good. If this is just a typical crawler, or this is a bot that's trying to do something harmful. So yes, there's a lot of companies that put things in place to be able to stop very simple bad bots from attacking their sites.
Okay, so Victor, what are bots? I've heard you've talked about bots a little bit. What are they? Help our listeners understand what bots are.
Okay, I don't know what the official definition of a bot is, but I'll explain what bots are from our perspective and the kind of service we provide. So my definition of a bot, it's a software program that could automatically do typically what a human will do. So just to give you an example, back in my junior days, my bosses would tell me, Victor, go to X, Y, and Z websites and get this information and copy it into your spreadsheets. Of course, you know what happened. There's room for mistakes.
Lots of errors.
Yeah, a lot of errors, and I'm not very quick, and I'm not very efficient. So for this kind of problem, we would create a bot that will follow a set of instructions, which is go to X websites, copy X fields from page X, save that into a structured format, and present you with the data in a structured format. I mean, that's one example of a bot. But as someone always told me, whenever there is any technology created, it could be used for good and for bad. So people could take advantage of being able to create this automated programs and create bad bots. A typical example of a bad bot is these bots that create multiple user accounts on email websites or programs, even like our program, to do things like spamming or take advantage of free trials, etc. Or you even have chat bots, which are good bots, which save loads and loads of time answering the same questions over and over again. So from my perspective, the benefits of bots, and which is one of our mission, is to save humans from doing the repetitive, boring things and free them up to be able to do some of the creative, intellectual things that we're actually capable of.
Of doing, yes. Yeah, you touched on the next question I have in mind. Is there an ethical side to using bots? So what I'm trying to get at is, you get these bots to do these things that humans will do, and of course, these companies will have to let these humans who are doing this repetitive task go, and they don't have a job, and they're out of work. The thing that they know how to do, how to make money, is being given to a robot, to a tiny little robot. That's how I think about bots as tiny little robots that are running around on the web doing what they do. Is there an ethical side to it that you think needs to be?
Let me give you my own perspective from my own experience. So I think about this. I graduate from university. I spend all these years studying. I come into my first job, and my boss is telling me to copy and paste.
Absolute waste of time.
Absolute waste of time. So if I'd known this then, I would have probably used some sort of bot solution to automate my work. But the point I'm trying to get to is, if my boss had allowed me use the same time to actually do something more intellectual or creative, I could have contributed a lot more to the business.
Yes.
And this is where we need to push humans. Humans don't need to do these kind of things. We need to allow humans who are very creative. A robot cannot be as creative as a human.
Absolutely not.
We need to let humans come up with creative solutions. I mean, I'm just thinking about the other day, I went to a car park and everything was automated. But I think back a few years ago where there used to be a guy opening and closing the barriers to a car park.
Yes, the barriers, yes.
I mean, that guy no longer has a job, but it's a good thing, because that guy should actually do something more fulfilling in his life. So my perspective of the ethical thing is, let's free up humans to actually do what we were designed to do.
Yes, which is create.
Correct.
I 100% agree with you. Thank you for sharing that, because there's been that argument that AIs, bots and so on and so forth are taking our jobs. We're not going to have jobs anymore. That's what they're saying, But really, I think people who are saying that are probably just, not that creative or lazy up there.
I can give you an answer to that as well, because I went to my kids' open day for a school. And one of the things the head teacher said was, she said, the jobs that our kids are going to do in the future haven't been invented yet.
Wow.
So when people say people are going to lose jobs, there's so many other jobs that people are going to create. I mean, Look at what's happening with YouTube influencers.
Yeah,
we're creating content. That wasn't a profession 10 years ago.
It wasn't.
Yeah, and this is because people have been freed from doing some of the typical factory work and all these things they would have normally done. And they can do more things, like there's no software that can do this interview. You're asking me questions based on your creativity and what you know. Only humans can do this. So I'm actually on the other side, and I'm encouraging more automation of repetitive things and freeing people like myself and anyone else to create.
You know what? I had the privilege of doing some work with Amazon a few months back. And I went to one of the, what do you call them?
The factories.
Distribution centers, yes. And the work was being done by robots.
Now, amazing.
And I asked the question, how many of these little robots are there on this floor? And there's about 2,000 of these little robots.
Wow.
Moving boxes from here to there and trying to put them in the right destination. Imagine having 2,000 people on that floor carrying boxes up and down. They're going to be bumping into each other. And, there's going to be arguments. There's going to be fights.
They're probably going to stay at one corner and gossip.
Exactly. Exactly. The robots have no time to gossip. They just do what they've been programmed to do. And that's the beauty of technology. It frees up, and obviously doing that job, there's nothing creative about it. Moving from one place, moving boxes from one place. There's nothing creative about it. So you're right. We need to be freed up. Humans need to be freed up from these mundane tasks. And I think individuals need to take it upon themselves as well to know that they are creative beings and can create something worthwhile that can, help them take care of themselves, their families, and
I'm very optimistic. Humans are very, I don't know what the word is, but we're very adaptable. I mean,
yes.
I looked at during coronavirus, where a lot of people lost their jobs, but people just created new jobs. I mean, I go back to the content creator or the TikTokers. There were a lot of TikTokers who lost their job, and they found a new way to survive.
Yes.
So don't ever underestimate what humans can do. Because this is not the first wave of a technology takeover. If you go back to a few hundred years ago, where everyone was farming and doing things manually, that's all gone. But we still survive. We've created new industries and new jobs and new ways to be able to provide for our families.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been fascinating. So what has been your lesson so far on this journey? What's been the most remarkable thing that you would say has happened to you since you took on this journey to get into this space of work?
Wow, it's a loaded question. Without reflecting too much, I think I've surprised myself, and I've been surprised by the whole startup ecosystem. It sounds so funny. A guy in his bedroom could create a company, work globally with people, and have thousands and thousands of people use their tool and pay them money. So I've really learned a couple of things. The whole idea of compounding, just doing very little things, adding more value to your product or your service, and it all compounds and it grows. It starts off slow, but eventually compounds to something really, really big.
Yes.
I've learned in the whole idea of entrepreneurship and startups and just starting something which could eventually get very, very big. I didn't believe initially when I started that this could become really big, but just listening to the feedback and listening to people want to invest in the company opened up my whole mind of how little old Victor could create something good.
Amazing. That's amazing. It's we never know how we can surprise ourselves in time, until we put ourselves out there and challenge ourselves to take those big leaps in life, big risks in life, and not think about the outcome being a disaster. The outcome can be very rewarding, like it is for you. Now, Victor, you and I we're both of Nigerian descent. We're both Igbo. Igbo Kwenu. Kwenu, exactly. Now, Nigeria is growing fast, as you know. How can we take what you're doing, to add more value to that part of the world? I mean, what has been your experience? Have you thought about, doing or extending what you do to Nigeria, or sharing that, expertise with people down there and see how you can help businesses, whether small or large, benefit from what you do?
It's a good question because so first of all, the startup scene in Nigeria is amazing.
Yes.
Every time I open TechCrunch, there's a new company raising a bunch of money.
Yes.
But the way I see entrepreneurship and starting a company is I never wanted to restrict myself to any geography. I wanted to work on a problem that millions of people have, regardless of wherever they are.
Yes.
So our startup, our company, our service is open to anyone with a web browser and has a problem to get data from the web.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be anyone from any country. So I never wanted to build a business just based around one geography. Now, how can I help people in Nigeria? Not necessarily through this service, because the need for data in Nigeria is not as advanced as in some other countries. But I do have a charity. I have an orphanage, which is founded by myself.
I didn't know that.
Not many people know. We don't do too much promotion because of the sensitivity of working with young kids. But we do have an orphanage. My dad was an orphan. He's very, 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 very passionate about the subject. So he said once he retires, he's going to start this orphanage. And with our help and himself, this has been running now for God on 10 years. So that's always my way of giving back. It's helping young kids in specific parts of Nigeria through the orphanage. And that's what I know how to do. And we're doing that very well. I wouldn't pretend to say I'm going to have use my business to help Nigerians. I believe we can help orphans, especially at the grassroots level, make sure they have a safe place to stay at night, make sure they're being looked after, make sure they can eat and have clothing. Because compared to where we are today than in Nigeria, the problems that people face are very different.
Yes.
And a lot of people sometimes want to solve problems in Nigeria at a very high level, like giving them business software.
Mm-hmm.
Not really the problem in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Probably 97% of people are struggling to actually have a meal on the table each night. Yeah, so any problem I wanted to solve in Nigeria, we agreed that it had to be at the grassroots level. So I'm going to carry on with the orphanage, but if I ever decide to do anything else, I'm always going to start at that level instead of trying to solve problems which aren't really problems, in my opinion, for Nigeria.
You know what? I love that take, really, and that is quite really how do I put this? I think looking at solving problems from that level, from that grassroots level, is something that is more needed than trying to solve big world problems that are not relevant, for the time or the place, and, something as sensitive and delicate as an orphanage is helping give life, to many people, many children who would grow up to be one day, in a space where they are successful, helping, and I'm hoping helping other people based on their successes, just like your dad is doing, with this, and I think that's a very commendable thing.
I mean, if I could just maybe shed some more light, put it into perspective of everyone in the world. So,
yes.
It cost us only about 170,000 naira.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably work that out in dollars.
Mm-hmm.
To fund a child for 1 year.
Wow.
So I'm trying to do the math. Just less than 200,000 naira.
That's probably, I don't know what the rate is in dollar, but in pounds, that's probably under £1,000.
Yeah, most definitely under £1,000.
Under £1,000.
So what I'm trying to just show is the kind of problems we're solving here.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very low level, and these are millions of people that have this problem. That I call it £1,000 a year could actually make a difference for one whole year.
A whole year.
This will give them school education.
Mm-hmm.
Is to be able to allow them to buy uniforms and clothing, and give them enough money to their guardians or wherever to be able to look after them.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about grassroots, it's always best if anyone wants to help any developing countries, they should always try and look for projects that actually start at the bottom, help people at that low level to be able to live for another day or live a better life.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. That is amazing. Now, thank you so much, Victor. It's having this conversation with you. I got to know things about you that I never knew before. So it's really good to know that you're doing well, and I know that as time goes on, what's the future? What's the big goal for the future?
From a business perspective,
yes,
we are very ambitious. We have very, very ambitious plans. We see a very big opportunity in this space that's growing. And we've been very consistent with our investors. We want to grow a $100 million company in the next 5 years. So we're aggressively going to go after that. And we're going to go as hard as we can or die trying.
I like that. Except of a quote. No, nice one. Now, if people want to reach out to you, who knows, somebody may want to partner with you or seek your services, how can they reach out to you?
So my email address, I can leave it with you as well. It's victor@webautomation.io.
Yeah.
That's one word. Or you can go straight to our website, webautomation.io, and look at the kind of things we're doing. But I'm always open for a conversation. If anyone wants to understand how we can help or benefits each other, please reach out to me.
Amazing. I love that. And it's one thing. Sometimes people look at people like you, people like us as far-fetched. We can never talk to this person, but because it looks as though they're high up there. And that shouldn't be the case. I encourage everyone. It doesn't matter who who it is. You never know. Just reach out to them. Like I listen to other podcasts as well, and I have reached out to a number of entrepreneurs, send them emails, and I get replies back. So you never know. And those ones who feel that they are
Yeah,
too big, yeah, go on.
So I'm not big at all. I'm still.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. It's not about who's
No.
big or who's
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yes.
But just to add on to your points, because we had a conversation before this as well. Is
Yes.
What has surprised me, because I do a lot of sales as well. What has surprised me is if you don't ask, you don't get.
You don't get.
And I've been surprised about how many people have just sent an email and they responded.
Yes.
Because as long as if you're reaching out to someone and offering something which they want, why wouldn't they respond to you? So I always believe in it. You're probably much better than I am because
I don't know about that.
I remember one thing you said to me. Don't quote me, but I was like, wow. You said you were going to introduce yourself to one random person.
Right, I remember that. Yes.
And you said you consistently do this. And that was amazing, I thought.
Yes, I did that. I was challenging myself. And I thought every single day, I must get to name basis with someone. I don't care who they are, where I meet them. I just want to challenge myself to speak to someone I don't know and get to name basis. And that's it. You remember when we sat at that restaurant, you know?
I remember. And you know what's funny? You did that in that restaurant. So you met someone randomly and you struck a conversation with them and you completely got on with this woman. I don't know how you did it, but I still need to improve because...
and not just that, I ate her food as well. I had some of her chips.
You did, actually. She surprisingly was so happy. So happy someone was talking to her, which is incredible.
And that's the thing. A lot of people want to be spoken to. A lot of people want to, have someone talk to them. But I think we have to dispose ourselves or put ourselves in the position of this, where we can attract. And even if someone doesn't look as though they are approachable, just challenge yourself and walk up to them. You never know. You could brighten that person's life up. And that's what I always say. Just talk. And who does it well? Who said it better? Is it BT? What's it BT? Is it BT? Is it the BT slogan? I can't remember if it's BT. Oh, I can't remember now, but maybe I'm thinking about something different. But yeah, we just need to talk and open up a whole new world to ourselves and that person as well. And talking conversations have led to many opportunities. It doesn't matter where we are, what it is. It doesn't matter how small or how great.
Actually, let me give one last nugget from what you said.
Yes, please.
A lot of people come to me, they have a lot of ideas about startups. And they always say, but I don't know how to code. Where do I find a CTO? This goes back to your point. How many people have you spoken to outside of your network in the last month? Probably zero. So if you keep speaking to your people in your network, you're never going to meet that person.
Never.
You just have to just go out of your comfort zone and just push yourself. Even if I am not that extroverted, but I had the same problem.
Yeah.
And I did exactly what you were saying, and I expanded my network. And luckily I found an amazing partner that I started a business with.
Amazing. You just never know, and the opportunities are endless. The reward is endless, and that's a fact. That's a fact. Last question is my superhero question. I know you know the question. You may know about this question. So it's a question. It's the last question I usually ask on every podcast, and I usually ask, this superhero question. And the question is, which superhero, fictional or non-fictional, dead or alive, do you have something in common with? What is it?
Wow.
And how has that helped you in life?
Okay.
That's another loaded question.
That's another loaded question, actually. I should have got ready with this one. So growing up, of course, I read a lot of comic books.
Yes.
My two favorite superheroes were Superman and Batman.
Yes.
I don't even have too much in common, but my aspiration was always to be Batman.
Yes.
Because he's a successful businessman at day, then in the nights he completely transforms.
Yeah.
And he's doing something completely different.
Yes.
So just growing up reading those comic books, I always pictured myself one day being the business guy in the day wearing the suits, and then I could just switch up and then just start killing or fighting away villains and being awesome. Is always what I imagined I'll be. I don't know if I've got that superpower. Maybe I'll have to work hard to maybe one day get there.
You know what? A lot of the people that have, answered this question have always gone with Batman. And I keep asking, why Batman? And they say, well, there's a human side to him. Some have said there's a human side to him, and then he goes at night and do what he does with fighting villains. I think it's a case of him being more relatable.
I completely agree. Agree.
Yeah, exactly. Now, thank you so much, Victor. It's been a pleasure, really having you on the show. You've shared so much insight into things that we don't know about you. I didn't know about you. You've educated us on data. You've educated us on what bots, are and how useful they can be. So I really appreciate this insight, and I do wish you all the best in your successes planned. I know you're gonna do it. I know what kind of person you are, man. So I know you're going to do great. So all the best with that, and I look forward to speaking with you again real soon.
Thank you, Chi. It's been a real pleasure.
It has been. It has really been. Thank you. Thank you for spending the time with Victor and I on this podcast. I have learned so much from this episode, and I hope you too have, and you are inspired to embark on your own risk-taking ventures, knowing that your work is not in vain, and it will pay off successfully if you persevere. Remember, open communication is the key if you have a family and you want to make life-changing decisions. Their support could go a long way, like it did for my guest on the show, Victor Bellow. Check out our new shows every week and click the follow or subscribe button to be notified when they are released. Please also support us by leaving a like, leaving a review. Let us know how you feel. 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star. It doesn't matter. Just let us know how you feel. Okay? Whatever you do, whatever you say will only help us get better. I am your host, your risk champ, Chizubale Gudo, here on the School of Risk podcast. Until next time, know this. Risk is everything, and everything is risk. When you put in the best of you, you get the best out of you, because the risk is you. Thank you.